Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video where we are going to talk about carnivorous dinosaurs. For this, I have brought two specimens. On one hand, we have a Velociraptor, and on the other hand, a Dilophosaurus. We are going to learn in a fun way, through these figures, and above all, through encyclopedias and books. You already know that I love to use them, because inside we have very interesting information about all of them. For example, on these pages, it tells us about Albertoceratops, which is a type of herbivorous dinosaur from the Triceratops family. As you can see, it had a crown-shaped skull with large horns to defend itself from predators. So let's take a look at today's figures to learn their names and some of their interesting features. What do you think? Should we start with the great Velociraptor? The Velociraptor was a carnivorous dinosaur that wasn't as big as other large predators, like, for example, the Tyrannosaurus rex. This time, the Velociraptor could reach about 2 meters in length from the tip of its mouth to the end of its tail. However, even though they weren't that big, they were able to catch large prey because they hunted in groups or packs. Therefore, unity made them strong. Regarding the figure, we can already see that it's impressive, it's large, and it doesn't have articulated legs. It's a rigid plastic figure, so it's quite heavy. However, we can open and close its jaw, revealing its entire set of teeth, all of them sharp. We can even see the detail of the tongue, which is tilted upwards. Also, it was a bipedal dinosaur. That means it walked on its hind legs, which, as you can see, are much bigger and stronger than the front ones. However, the front legs also had an important function. Wow! And I just realized that the front legs are actually jointed. I thought all four were rigid, but I love it, because we can actually move the front ones. What I was telling you is that the front legs were quite long, and as you can see, it had 3 fingers on each of them, with 3 strong claws. These claws were very important, since it used them to catch its prey, or even to grab the meat, bring it to its jaw, and eat more easily. Its neck was slightly long, and another characteristic is that Velociraptor could run at high speed, since, as I mentioned, it didn't weigh too much. Also, it was quite slim, and its hind legs were very powerful. Also, look at the claws on its hind legs. It had 3 toes, just like the great T-Rex. But pay attention to the toe on the inner side. As you can see, it is raised higher, with one of its claws shaped like a hook. In this way, another interesting fact is that its long tail was used to change direction when it was running. Let's see what the book tells us about the Velociraptor. Look, here we have an illustration that, at first glance, we wouldn't say is a Velociraptor. And that's because we're usually used to seeing the Velociraptor depicted this way, with scaly skin, both in books, movies, and television shows. However, the book tells us that, according to the latest research, it seems the Velociraptor was a feathered dinosaur. What does that mean? Does it mean that its whole body was covered in feathers? Above all, we see that they were longer and larger on the back part of its front legs, and especially on its long tail, where it had very long feathers. The tip. This is something we didn't know, so I'm glad I saw it in the book, because we've learned something new. Also, here we have a real photograph with the fossil remains of one of Velociraptor's claws, where we can see one of its hook-shaped claws. Also, in the Dino Facts, it specifies that Velociraptor lived during the Cretaceous period. In addition, it could weigh between 5 and 20 kilos, and, as mentioned, it was a carnivore, and fed on either small or large prey. It also tells us that its name means fast hunter. All the information we've discovered is very interesting. And now that we know more about the Velociraptor, let's leave it here in its oasis. And let's go see the next one. The Velociraptor was a carnivorous dinosaur that lived on planet Earth during the Cretaceous period, but the one we're going to see now is called Dilophosaurus. It was one of the first large carnivores and lived on planet Earth during the Jurassic period, no less than over 155 million years ago. As you can see, it is characterized by the large crests on its head. Also, these crests were different depending on whether they were male or female. It also comes with an articulated jaw, which I like, because we can open it and reveal its entire jaw full of teeth. as well as its tongue. Just like in the previous figure. Oh, isn't it? I thought I could move the front legs, but apparently this figure can't move them. It can only open and close its jaw. But we can see all the details of its skin. As I told you, it's made of hard plastic, but it has different textures and shades. Also, this type of dinosaur had a slightly long neck and a crest of small spikes that ran along the entire dorsal part of its body up to the beginning of its tail, which, as you can see, is also quite long and thin. At the tip, it's bipedal because it also walks on its hind legs. And what about its size? This carnivorous dinosaur could reach about 2 meters in height and approximately between 6 and 9 meters in length, from its mouth to the end of its tail. In the book, we have more information about Dilophosaurus. It comes with a fantastic illustration, and at the top, we can see its scientific name written, which includes an inserted H. Regarding the dino facts, I'm seeing something I didn't know, and it says that it could weigh approximately 400 kilos. In those adult male specimens, it mainly fed on small animals, fish, and carrion. Do you know what carrion means? It means that it fed on dead animals. That is, animals hunted by other dinosaurs that left some remains behind. Then the Dilophosaurus would come and eat everything that was left. We also have a photograph with fossil remains of its legs and also its skull, which shows us that its teeth were actually not fragile, but rather quite strong. We can see that the crests on the top, the teeth, and everything have been fossilized. These are the cavities that it had for its nostrils and its eyes. And now we've learned more information about these two types of carnivores, Dilophosaurus and Velociraptor. Also, I love today's setting. As you can see, we have some vegetation and even a nest with dinosaur eggs. Do any of you know how the dinosaurs became extinct? Can we check some information in the Great Encyclopedia? The truth is that there are many theories about the extinction of the dinosaurs, but there is one that is the most widespread and the most reliable. And it tells us that the dinosaurs became extinct because of the impact of a meteorite. About 65 million years ago, a meteorite that left a crater of approximately 200 kilometers in diameter, just imagine, hit the Earth at high speed. The meteorite, more or less, we're told, was about 10 kilometers in size. Also, we're told that even the area where it landed, in the region of Mexico, more specifically Yucatan. Because of this meteorite, a huge shockwave was created that brought many consequences. In this case, very negative ones, especially for all the living beings that inhabited the area. Everything overheated, and many forested areas began to burn. And therefore, the dinosaurs, which were the largest animals that existed, couldn't survive the new conditions on planet Earth. In this way, they became extinct. And after this very interesting information, we finished today's video. Here we have the two carnivores we've learned about. If you like this video and want to see more videos to learn about new animals and discover interesting information about all of them, you can help me by giving me a super like, a thumbs up, and I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Remember that we will always use figures to learn in a fun way, along with all these books and encyclopedias, so we can enrich ourselves with them. And now, I say goodbye to you. See you in the next video with more amazing animals. Goodbye, hello everyone, and welcome to a new video where we are going to meet two specimens of herbivorous dinosaurs. On one side, we have the great parasite Adios, and on the other side, an armored dinosaur, the great Ankylosaurus. In addition, we are going to use the book Adios to discover more information about all of them. You already know that I love to use it because there's a lot of interesting information, like on this page where it tells us about Tarbosa. On one hand, we have the great Parasaurolophus on Earth during the Cretaceous period. More than 70 million years ago, here we can see an illustration of its body, and above all, we can appreciate its large jaw. But in today's video, we are going to get to know these two great herbivores. We'll start with Parasaurolophus. First, let's take a look at the figure. I like it a lot because it's large, and we can notice all the details. Also, it's soft. We can squish and press it, so we can even bend its tail and even its head. The Parasaurolophus lived on planet Earth during the Cretaceous period. Also, it was a dinosaur that could walk bipedally, that is, on its hind legs. But it could also use all four legs to run at a higher speed. Its body was quite large and robust, and it also had a long tail. As you can see, let's pay attention to the details of its face. Its mouth wasn't very big, since it only needed to chew plants, leaves, grass, and fruit. But the most distinctive feature was the large horn it had on the back of its head. This horn was able to produce sounds that it used to communicate. It could communicate with the rest of the herd, especially when a carnivore was coming to attack it. For example, if a big Tyrannosaurus Rex was coming, it would start making sounds, and the rest of the herd could escape in time. It was a great defense technique. In the book, we have more information about him and the Dino facts. It tells us that it could reach about 12 meters in length, from the tip of its tail to the end of its mouth. Its name means close to the crested lizard. Also, here we have a fact I didn't know, and it tells us that it was a great swimmer. Therefore, it seems that it could also dive into the water. It also lived during the Cretaceous period, between 83 and 71 million years ago, and adult specimens could weigh about 2.5 tons. Let's leave Parasaurolophus here, because it's time to meet a great armored dinosaur, the mighty Ankylosaurus, also known as the armadillo of the Cretaceous. As you can see, the most striking thing is that the upper part of its body is covered with large spikes. Therefore, its skin was very thick, and because of the spikes, it was almost unbreakable. It was a defensive measure, since the upper part of its body was the main target for carnivores that opened their jaws to eat them. Therefore, having such thick skin and these spikes, it could prevent itself from being bitten. In addition, it also used its large tail as a defensive weapon. As you can see, it had a large ball or club at the tip, which it swung from side to side to defend itself from predators. It was also a quadruped, had a very robust body, and if we look at the upper part, its head, we can see that it was also armored and had spikes on the sides. Also, like other herbivores, it had a beak at the tip of its mouth that it used to dig in the ground in search of food. In the book, we have more information about the Ankylosaurus. It tells us that it could reach about 9 meters in length, from the tip of its tail to the end of its mouth. It also tells us that it ate low-growing plants, and that its name means armored lizard. As for its height, it could reach more than 1.5 meters in length, especially in those adult male specimens. It tells us that its legs were short but very strong, and they looked a lot like the shape of an elephant's legs, especially in the toes and in the way it rested its legs. It lived on planet Earth during the Cretaceous period, more than 80 million years ago. Impressive! And before finishing with the great Ankylosaurus, I'm going to introduce you to another dinosaur from the same family, but in which we see a lot of differences. Look, here we also have another armored dinosaur. This time it's called Sauropelta, but we can see some huge differences compared to Ankylosaurus. First of all, we notice that the spikes on the upper part of the Sauropelta are longer and bigger than those of the Ankylosaurus. We also notice that it doesn't have the big club or mace at the tip, and its head is much smaller, and its neck is slightly longer. As you can see, they are dinosaurs from the same family, but with many differences. Also, there were probably a lot more dinosaurs that we still don't know about. Everything we know is thanks to the discovery of fossil remains that paleontology has uncovered. Before we finish today's video, let's talk about paleontological sites. Throughout history, many sites with dinosaur fossil remains have been found. This is what has allowed us to learn about all the species we know today, but there are still many more to discover. Here we have some examples of the dinosaurs discovered in the European area. We have carnivorous dinosaurs as well as herbivorous dinosaurs, piscivorous ones, and also flying reptiles. Over here, we have a flying reptile covered in feathers. It tells us that in Spain there are dinosaur sites in Burgos, La Rioja, Soria, Cuenca, Lérida, Asturias, and Aragon. Here we have, for example, a Megalosaurus. It tells us that with its powerful claws, it could tear apart large herbivores. The iguanodon has also been discovered, a very interesting herbivorous dinosaur. But here we have other dinosaurs that are not very well known, but just as incredible. At the top, we see a piscivorous dinosaur with a fish in its mouth. On the other hand, we also have sites in the African region. Here we have the African continent and some of the most important dinosaurs that have been found in these areas. For example, the Great Spinosaurus. It tells us that the sail on its back was used to regulate its body temperature, so it would lie in the sun. And with this large crest, it could absorb heat to self-regulate its body temperature. Since it was an animal that loved to dive into the water, especially to hunt. But we also have long-necked dinosaurs. This one, I'm sure you all know, is the Great Brachiosaurus found in African fossil sites. Impressive. And now, friends, we've finished today's video. Here we have the 2 herbivorous dinosaurs we've learned about. If you like this video and want to learn more about dinosaurs, you can help me by giving me a super like. And I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. This way, you also help me to keep creating lots of content for all of you. And now, it's time to say goodbye. See you in the next video with more amazing dinosaurs.